Life happens for us, not to us. And that's not always easy to swallow when things suck, right? But let's unpack the cliff notes for the cosmology of life, if you will. And I'm not saying when we do this that you have to agree with everything I say here, but it might make some sense to you, and it'll definitely be a springboard for us to jump off from. And while there's so much that could be said, I've tried to pare it down to the core essentials. So bear with me, if you will, and I'll tell you the story from my heart to yours, with the caveat that it is not my intention to offend anyone. This is simply how I make sense of the journey out of the matrix of fear into the tapestry of love creatively. And it's this very tapestry that guides, holds, protects, and provides for me and you. So grab some tea and let me tell you a story called The Cosmology of Life. Once upon a time, the creator of the universe said, I am all that is, and the everything, and the one, and I would like to experience myself. Thus, I will extend myself into a physical form in order to explore more of myself and to feel, love, and create. This physical form must contain opposites in order to not be everything, and thus in order to experience variety on a physical plane. The one caveat for the experience was the importance of staying in connection with the great creator of all that is, a heart-to-heart connection, which would allow for the most exquisite experiences of creative expression and love. In doing this, the great creator herself would expand her own love, and the entire multiverse would be blessed by this expansion. Fast forward many thousands of years where the one caveat was forgotten. Because our planet is one of free will, even the free will to forget is honored. Our disconnection from the source of life went from a roaring flame in our heart to a barely burning ember. The game board of life became a maze of fear. Now, when a soul considers incarnating into a physical experience on beloved Mother Earth, she contemplates the game board upon which life is played, including the great maze of fear that the years of disconnection has caused. It's a bit of a tangled mess, but it appears to be the only reality, but that's just part of the amnesia. And she knows that one of the biggest signs that she's trapped in the maze is her critical mind that has her in a spin of fear, worry, tension, and anxiety. But every beloved soul, however unconscious, however deep in the heart, also knows her true nature, which is love. She is an extension of the creative life force herself, and she knows that love is the most powerful energy in the universe. She knows that the entire fabric of the universe is love. She knows before incarnating that the universe is designed to provide and protect her. So she goes in with the great knowing, sure that she'll enter the maze and remember. She'll remember to connect so she can transcend the maze and be one who adds love to the universe rather than fear. As her physical life years pass, she remembers less and less, until one day something gets her attention in such a way that she remembers that there is something to remember. She begins to pay attention. She places a high priority on being present, so she's able to cultivate her awareness. If she follows that thread, she begins to remember. Slowly but surely, she becomes willing to transmute the old stories and false beliefs in favor of her true design. She does what it takes to gain access to the truth residing in her heart and soul. If she doesn't follow the thread, well, it'll keep getting her attention over and over until she follows the thread. This is where life is happening for us, to get our attention and to help us awaken to the true nature of ourself and life. This awareness is paramount to our awakening. No matter where we are on the spiritual journey, new or further in. In fact, I have a string of A words that work. Awareness, which is that something feels off. 2, acceptance. So rather than running from the thing that's kind of making us feel weird, we just accept it. 3 is alignment with source. And 4 is access to our inner gold, wisdom, and gifts, which also transcends the thing that we got access to. She happens to notice the thread she's following is a red thread, and when she touches the red thread, it feels metaphorically alive. She feels stronger and senses that there is treasure awaiting her, and she feels her, the great Mother Divine, the great creative life force coursing through her veins, and it is beautiful. She knows then and there that no matter what she encounters, she must stay on the journey. Because her creative spirit and wisdom will carry her through all obstacles, all the while leading her home to her heart, where she will fan the ember back into a flame, which in turn becomes her personal medicine. It warms, heals, cleanses, and guides her critical mind to rest and to live a life with ease, grace, abundance, and creative expression, as well as a life overflowing with love. Here she is enough. Here she is worthy. Here she is vital and whole. And here she lives a version of creative freedom whereby she honors her unique yet shared belonging in the world. Let us, from that foundation, set an intention for our piece. The beauty of intentional creativity is it allows for things to occur differently than they were before, for guidance to become a louder voice than our stories, and in fact, for our own stories to become the compost from which we blossom ourselves anew. You'll see over time how this three-step process is very impactful. And if this is your first process, then just come along with me and I'll guide you through every step of the way. So let's talk about intention. Your intention might be in the form of an inquiry, which is also very powerful. And here are some examples that you might think about for your process. An inquiry like, who is my creative life force? And can you show me the way to my divine heart? Or, how can I feel and know you more? Or maybe teach me how to align with my loving heart and creative self more than my mind. Another one is, how can I soften the edge of my critic and choose divine love more and more? Or, how can I cultivate awareness and gain access to the truth of my heart? You may want to listen to the guided audio that I have in this on this channel to meet your creative life force. And it's really best if you listen to that before entering into our creative play, which is coming next, because then you'll have more material and substance to draw from. Then you'll be able to add colors and symbols and shapes and words or textures that represent what you met, what you saw in the guided imagery. And don't worry if what you're attempting to depict on the piece of the paper, the canvas that we're using isn't exactly what you saw. It almost never is, for the record. We just make marks that suggest or represent the intention behind it. Now we're going to go play and I'll show you what all that means. Okay, so here we are for our creative play. I'm just going to introduce a couple of things. You can either use regular old printer paper. Seriously, I just pulled this off the printer tray. And a Sharpie. I happen to have a package of lots of colors, but if all you have is a black Sharpie, totally cool. You can also use highlighters if you so choose. And then I have here some watercolor pencils. So if you do happen to have a mixed media journal, which is just what this is, I happen to collage over it. I'll give you the link to where these mixed media journals are on Amazon. They're really well priced and they have different sizes. This one I like because I can take it with me anywhere I go. It's not too unwieldy. But you can actually use watercolor pencils on these pages, and then you can, let me just grab a brush here. You can actually kind of wet them out a little bit. I'll show you more when we do our intention, but it's kind of cool that way. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to write our intention on this substrate. Anything we do creative work on is called a substrate, whether that's a wood panel or a canvas board or watercolor paper. In this case, this is a journal page, or it could be literally any piece of paper, a coloring book page. Those are considered to be substrates, and we're elevating the substrate to the place of being a portal. We're lifting it into a divine creative place, and we're calling it a portal whereby we enter ourselves into the creative process for it to be the intention of healing or to bring forth something that's important to us, but also to meet parts of us, to meet our creative life force, to meet our inner creative muse, to meet our divine heart, to meet parts of what is ready to be brought forward from our heart and soul. We enter this portal because this is something that is in form. So it's, we're doing something, when we create an intention, it's sort of a non-form thing. Just like a thought doesn't have form per se, but nobody can say thoughts don't exist. It's also a good analogy is using the wind. Like, we don't see the wind, we don't see that it is blowing the trees. We see the trees being blown, but we don't see the wind that's blowing the trees. And that's sort of like our creative life force. It's in us, it's beating our heart, it's pumping our blood, it's digesting our food, it's the chi that gives us the life force to have the life that we do. Yet we don't necessarily see it. So when we intentionally ask questions and create with that form, or with that non-form, on form, then it bridges our relationship. So that's part of what this process does and why it's so powerful. And when we do it with presence, then it's as powerful as mindfulness. There's a ton of research on mindfulness, and a lot of it's on my website if you want to go check that out too. 5elementcreativehealing.com, and there's a research box that you can just go read a ton of really cool stuff about creative process and the healing capacities and the overcoming of trauma and all kinds of stuff. So these are watercolor pencils, and you can grab a packet of these on Amazon also for a nice price. And what I'm going to ask you to do starting now is to, when you're thinking about using a color, like now we're gonna write our intention on this page. So you want to look for a color that actually will speak to you. And when we do that, when we sort of check in, like if you have these right here and you're thinking to yourself, which color is lighting up for me? Which one do I really want to play with the most? And then you let that's the building of guidance. That's kind of building the muscle of guidance, so to speak. So I'm gonna use both things just so you have the example of both. This is a watercolor pencil, this is our Sharpie, and if you haven't yet thought of your intention, pause the video and or watch me go through this. My intention, this is for our awareness and for the acceptance of the stuff that comes up. Now, next month, we're going to learn how to transform the energy of emotions and old stories and old beliefs. There's a very specific protocol for that I found to be very successful. And when we do it engaged in a creative healing process, it's powerful. So, but now what we're wanting to do is we're wanting to be aware of the creative life force that's in us. Now, whether she has a face or she is a symbol of some sorts, if you've done the guided imagery, none of that matters. What matters most is your intention to meet her inside of you. She's not outside of you. Of course, she's everywhere outside of us, but she's also she flows in through and around every single one of us. And so the intention is to meet her. So my intention, I'm just going to say, I'm going to say, show me where you are in every, and I'm going to switch to the Sharpie so you can see the difference, crack and crevice of myself, others, and life. One of the things I pray for in the morning is I ask the universe to show me all the laughter and love and beauty in every crack and crevice of the universe. So when I'm out and about in my day, including with myself, I get shown that. It's a very playful thing to do. So now what I'm going to do is we're going to just simply honor that this is your intention. And I'm going to kind of blot out the writing part, just this part with a little bit of water, because it is a watercolor pencil, and it just sort of, It allows for water to cleanse and purify. This can be part of your intention too, that everything that is not in alignment with you being in full awareness with yourself, and for you accessing the more truth in your heart, and for you to have a joyful relationship with your creative life force, with your inner divine love, then you want to transcend that energy. You want to remove the blocks and the barriers, which again we're going to do that in next month's video, and you want to allow for the truth to emerge. And then what we'll do is we're going to draw a face, and I just need this to dry for a minute. So while that's drying, I want to tell you a little bit of something called I want to talk to you about something regarding your creative, or your critic, the part of you, the part of our mind that is critical and judgmental and really mean, if we want to be honest about it. Our critical mind is really a tool for protection. She's designed to protect us, and she does a good job of it, but she doesn't really let us play outside of the bounds of her safety, and her safety bounds are very narrow, because what she assumes is that if up until this point of your life you're alive and you're safe, then you shouldn't change anything because that could change the whole combination, and it upsets her, is the bottom line. So what we're going to do is we're going to be on a journey together where you notice that critical part of yourself. Try not to make her wrong. I have taken to being grateful to her for doing her job, but then letting her know that there's something that I want to do that's outside of what she knows about yet, but I will, if she is willing to come along, she'll see that it's perfectly safe. That's part of, the cracks and crevices of where divine love and where the creative life force lives, that we're on a treasure hunt for. We're exploring where all that is. It's an adventure, so to speak. And our mind doesn't always love adventures because it could be scary. We could die on an adventure. But those are old programs that we had in our mind for saving ourselves on the plains of Africa and running from saber-toothed tigers and whatnot. The programming hasn't been upgraded. And part of our job as a conscious human being on a spiritual path is to teach our mind what the new upgrades are. And that includes us being our loving and creative self in exchange for the fear and the stories that have been running us for so long, right? So I let her say her piece, but then I carry on. I say, you can come with me or you don't have to, but I'm going. So that's the story. And I also want to say a thing about, I was never ever creative before my late 30s, early 40s. I tried once to draw a teapot, and it was just horrible. I threw it out and just, crowned myself a non-creative person. And it wasn't until I started dating artists, and this is kind of funny. I didn't realize until after I had dated, I think it was like 3 artists, that I thought to myself one day, I was so attracted to the fact that they were artists, but then I realized, oh, I'm the one who wants to explore artistic expression and creativity. So I put myself in a program, and what I learned, and this is very powerful, and this is important for you to know if you do not consider yourself a creative person, is that it's just about playing. It's just about practice. People aren't born creative or not creative. Everyone is born creative. It's those who pursue that drive in them that become more skillful, really. So anyway, that's just something to know. So I think we're dry enough here. What we're going to do now, and I think what I'll do is just use a different color pen. We're going to make marks that represent your divine creative muse inside you. And it matters not whether it looks good or not. So I'm going to have us do some very, very simple marks to make the face of the feminine, a face of a feminine image. You can follow along with me. That will simply be marks that represent who she is inside of you. And it's okay if what what you see on this page isn't as beautiful as what you see on the inside. That's a common situation. So I'm just going to draw some, an eyelid and another eyelid here. I'm going to draw an eyebrow here. You can just follow along. You can pause the video when you need to. I'm going to draw a nose. You can make little nostrils if you'd like. I'm going to draw some lips. They're just like a little mountain thing there. And then the bottom lip. And then the mid part there, and maybe a little chin there. And that's all I'm going to do. Now, we can do more actually, but for now, and especially since this is our first time, I'm just going to do that. One of the other things that we could do are things like, drawing the face like that, and maybe a little side here. You could also draw some hair if you so desired. But you don't have to. Really, it's just the core features that I am wanting us to draw, and it doesn't matter if she looks pretty or not. Really, what matters is that you have just made marks with an implement, an artistic implement, that are bringing forward an energy, and that energy is your inner creative life force, your inner divinity, and that's really all that matters here. And then it's about playing, really. If you saw any symbols, I'm gonna put out a little paint here, so I'm just using versions. I'm using a magenta, which is a version of red, a yellow, bronze yellow. I thought it was ochre. Bronze yellow, which is a representation of yellow, and then a teal, which represents blue, because red, yellow, and blue are the three primary colors from which all colors can be made. I just think these are a little more fun. And you can, if you have a Michael's or a Hobby Lobby near you, you can get on sale, you can get these colors. I think I just moved our video, sorry about that. And then just go play. Praying through the paintbrush is one of the things that I've talked about on one of my videos. You can go check that out if you want to know more about that. But what we're doing now is we're sitting with our portal. We're holding our intention lightly in our heart. You don't have to focus heavily on it. And we're going to play on the page. And we're going to begin the process of noticing when you feel a prompt. I didn't even think about choosing this teal color first. I just did, and I know that to be my inner wisdom, my inner creative life force, just sort of moving through me. And just make marks on the page that you feel inclined to make. That's all this is about. It's just for fun. It's just in order to be playful and explore and enjoy color, because color has so much to offer us. And, you can even, if you saw any kind of symbols in your, I'm going to dip into the red here. If you saw any kind of symbols in your journeying, then paint those on there. Some of the symbols I often like to paint, I'll just share with you those now, are the spiral, because that is the spiral of life, which is it's life. It denotes thriving. It denotes expanding and growing and increasing love and being devoted to the increase of love, which I am. And another symbol that I like, I'll do this one in this bronze yellow, is a 6-petal rose. Now this isn't going to look like a rose, but I just make 6 petals. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Some of these got, and then just bring them all together in the center. And that actually has some beautiful meaning. The 6-petal rose. It's a spiritual meaning. You can look that up if that appeals to you to know about it. And then let's put some fun color in the middle there, huh? I mean, just play. This is, you're hopefully starting to get the idea of it. It's just very playful. And one of my other symbols is a chalice, and it's kind of like a cup of gold / chalice. I'll just draw the general shape for you here. It represents abundance. It represents enough. It represents a yes. When we hold our hands like this, we're saying yes to the universe. And then I always like to put a little bit of gold in the middle, because that represents literal abundance in the form of gold, or in our case, it's money on the planet, right? That's how it is now. It used to be gold. So I love having a chalice. It's also representational of making sure a reminder, it's a visual reminder to keep our own cup full first and foremost, and then from our full cup can overflow to those we love and care about, right? Rather than, digging down at the bottom of the barrel and trying to give to everyone else, leaving nothing for ourselves. That's just not anything that serves anybody. It's a core teaching in all spiritual traditions to give from a full cup. And we'll be exploring that. I think it's month 3 where we explore changing around some of the old beliefs. It's literally in a woman's DNA to leave herself last. And so we're going to start decoding some of that and teasing out what is not really true, but has just been part of our story for 5,000 years. And we're going to start resurrecting and restoring the true story of a woman being giving from a full cup, among many other stories. And then one of the other symbols that I really, really like is, it's called the Merkaba. It's also ends up being like a 6-pointed star, which is, I know it's in the Jewish tradition, but that's not really why I like it. I like it because it represents the symbol of the feminine, this style of triangle, and oops, I did it backwards here. Let's see. Shoot, here we go. And then this way, we'll go this way. So I usually do the top one first, so it kind of threw me off there. But anyway, this is also an energetic aspect of our spirituality, which is kind of more advanced. But anyway, this is something that when we really tap into it, we realize is swirling around us as a life force and as a field. I'm just going to add, I'm actually kind of, what's the word? I don't like wasting paint. So I'm getting rid of the paint that's on the rest of the paint on my. Now, if you wanted to give her a little bit of a hot red lip thing, you can do that. This is just all in play. And you can give her eyes, maybe, you can go over some of these lines you made, like her eyebrows and her nose and her eyes. I mean, seriously, it's all playful. Now, we could go on and on. Literally, we could paint over this and we could put something else on it in service of our original intention, because we always know what's underneath. I also suggest you take pictures. I didn't actually mention this, but when you've written your intention, it's nice to take a picture, because you think in the moment you'll remember, but surprisingly that doesn't always happen, and you may want to remember. So anyway, just take a picture of anything that you feel like you want to remember, and we could go a whole year on just this page. I mean, I don't know if it's really sturdy enough, but we could definitely do it on a canvas, and I've done those kinds of processes before where I'm literally working on a canvas for a whole year. So I'm only telling you that not because we're going to do work on this page for our whole year together. I'm just saying that we could. So now the important thing to do is to you're going to step away for a few minutes, and we're going to visit what the insights are that this piece has to offer you. And before we do that, I just want to make sure that I've told you everything that I wanted to tell you about this part, the creative play. We've talked briefly about praying through the paintbrush. You can go watch that video if you decide. I've told you that intentional creativity is a form of mindfulness. And the other thing is that the simplicity of intentional creativity is just like it says. It's creating with intention, and it includes employing inquiry, imagination, intention, internal connection, insights, and action. And it's a way of accessing information inside of your heart and soul that's important for you to know at any given time, using image and language. And this allows for us to work with our whole brain and heart versus just a right or a left side of our brain. It's very
it's a very whole brain and whole body experience. It's extremely powerful, especially when you engage with regularity. I mean, I've witnessed women heal cancer, transform their marriage, triple their income, find a perfect house really quickly because they were having to leave their house, release trauma and abuse. That actually happens a lot in a very safe way, and we'll do that together. I prefer that you wait for us to do that together, so that you know that you're safely doing it. And I've just seen in all of my 38 years of healing trauma, abuse, and pain as a practitioner of Chinese medicine, the list is so long what intentional creativity and creative healing can do. And my point is just keep coming back for more, and don't worry how this piece looks. Yeah, that will just be your critical mind if she starts criticizing anything on here. I've learned that I start loving certain pieces, certain parts of it over time, especially after I step away. We've talked about how the critical mind has a job, and it's okay that's her job, but that we shouldn't limit ourselves to just what she has to say. So I am going to have us now talk about the insights that you're going to gain from this experience.
Okay, so here we are at the part of our process where we're going to receive wisdom from our piece. We're going to gather the insights that our process will reveal to us. Just simply being engaged in the creative healing process allows for insights and information to come through. So I usually grab a cup of tea and I sit in front of her. And remember, as a reminder, this is a portal into your heart and your wisdom and your creative life force, which is keeping you alive with your every breath. Recall your intention and just look at the colors and the marks and the shapes on your page. And don't try to force anything. Just ask her, what would you have me know about? And then say your intention. And then sip your tea and continue to enjoy what's on the page. And without forcing anything, notice if something comes through, if it drops in. It may come through now, or it may also be that you'll need to get up several times and come back. It's amazing what fresh eyes can do. Eventually, an insight will arrive. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I have stepped away from a piece. It's all quietly working in your system, which is the whole part of you that's beyond just your mind. So when that's at play, you just don't exactly know when you are sitting in front of your piece or walking by your piece or revisiting your piece, when the insights and the wisdom will drop in. But I've never known a woman who that hasn't happened for, so don't worry. There's also a possibility that you're not quite finished yet and that there's more to be added to your piece, and you may wake up tomorrow morning, for example, and be inspired to add something or write a word or a sentence on your page. Follow all of that guidance. Following your guidance is by far one of the most potent ways that I know to build this muscle, as I said when we were playing. There's less resistance and you're engaged with your creative spirit, which is what makes it so magically powerful. It's a good idea to write your insights down as they arrive and offer gratitude for the wisdom. So I keep a separate journal for this kind of thing. And then say to this piece of wisdom, as it's held in the physical form on your page, will you show me how to weave this into my mind, body, and life? Teach me what is in my highest good to know about this, and continue to unfold and show me aspects of you, meaning your creative life force, that will set me free. I mean, how juicy is that, right? And remember, you can't do this wrong. Energy only comes into your conscious awareness when it's ready to be transformed. So don't be afraid of something that's presenting itself and as ready to be transformed. That usually comes in some version or some flavor of fear or resistance. It's just old energy, and it's simply a particular vibration of old energy, usually affiliated with an old story, an old belief, an old trauma. And that vibration, the vibration of energy, really, it can't harm us. It feels like it can, but when you actually, if you've ever actually sat with something and just let it be what it is, you realize that it's actually pretty harmless, and it also becomes to dissipate when you become present with it. So also remember that the journey is a path, and if you get off track, no big deal. You simply need to step back onto your path. No harm, no foul. It happens to all of us all the time. Also, the path is not necessarily a straight road. It's more of a circular road in nature, like a labyrinth, where all you have to do is keep putting one foot in front of the other, and it'll take you to your center. That's what a labyrinth does. That center is your source. It's right to the heart of your creative life force. So next month, what we're going to learn is how to actually transform what you're becoming aware of, transform the old energy. And it's some of the most powerful work I know of, as I've told you. At least it's been extremely transformative for myself and hundreds of other women. And it's also one of the fastest ways to move through our old beliefs, our old patterns that just aren't serving us anymore, but seem to still keep running us, right? So we can't get past them to reach the very desire or the way of being or the thing that we're wanting to have more of in our life or less of. So that's natural, and having a colorful, creative way of transcending that and alchemizing that old stuff in favor of the new is just literally you'll hear me say this so much. It's one of the juiciest ways I know to come bring old energy to rest and to restore our true nature and allow it to blossom and unfold before our eyes. All right, I'll see you next month. And be sure to take, pay attention to your email, because I'll be sending prompts and links and journal prompts and ways to sort of keep this particular theme more alive in this month. Okay?